Hello, everyone, and happy St. Patty's Day. It's not quite St. Patty's Day, but I have a super fun project for you for the upcoming holiday. I am Rachael Teufel, and we are excited to be bringing you this live tutorial on creative cake design in order to learn how to make some of these adorable cakes. They're little mini cakes, and they are, of course, themed for the St. Patrick's Day holiday. If you haven't already downloaded the really cool template that I provided for this particular tutorial, I encourage you to do so. There is a link over in the comment section, so you'll get pictures of the final product as well as some templates, and I'll talk you through how we're going to use those templates on our cakes today and make it super simple. It's an easy process. Truly, anyone can make these cakes, even though they may seem a little bit more elaborate, especially our little leprechaun. He is just one of the cutest little cakes I think I've ever created. He was so fun. So I truly believe that anyone and everyone can make these cakes, and I would encourage you to get the kids involved. This is a fun, festive style of cake to create. So I want to mention also that there's a QR code on your screen that you can utilize in order to pull up the download as well. Just in case you don't want to click over on the link in the comment section, this new QR code is just perfect for getting right to the download and doing what you need to do to be ready for this class. So thank you so much for joining me. And if you have any questions or comments throughout this tutorial, I would encourage you to put them over in the comment section. I'll be checking them throughout the tutorial, and I'll answer as many as I can. So why don't we get the shenanigans going? I'm so excited about this one. So let's talk first just about what it is that you'll need to create these three little mini cakes. And it's really simple. They are just little tins. These are cupcake tins, technically. This one is in the style of a loaf pan, but it's smaller. It's right around like a 5.5, 6-inch length, and then it's about 2 inches wide. So it's a good size little loaf pan. It would serve one, in my opinion, but you definitely could create this as an individual treat for somebody, or maybe somebody would share as a couple, or something of that sort. But these are really cute. They come with little plastic lids as well, and so they're super handy. These metal tins have been all the rage this year so far, and even at the end of 2022, we've seen these emerge, and I think that this has just been a bit of a game changer in the way of making smaller cakes that are sturdy. So the difference between these and a cupcake, for instance, is simply that the cupcake typically is done in a paper liner. They don't have a whole lot of structure to them, which is not a bad thing. They all serve their own purpose. But what I love about these is it makes it super easy to ice and get a perfectly flat, smooth coating on top, which of course is a lot of goals. It's a goal for a lot of people to get that perfectly smooth iced cake. And it's a great way just to be able to do that easily. Again, especially if the kiddos are involved, makes the process a little faster and a little easier. So you definitely can do that. I have found these on Amazon, super easy to pick up. They come in a variety of colors. So I'm doing 3 colors. I've got silver, green, and then a blue for our rainbow pot of gold. So you can pick and choose from a variety of shapes. They come in round and heart. These loaf pans, they come in little squares, all sorts of shapes and sizes. So I'd encourage you just to look around and see what you can find. I'm guessing they're going to pop up in stores very quickly if they haven't already. I haven't personally seen them, but I would assume that they'll be in the stores very soon. So aside from a baked cake in your little loaf pans, you're also going to need buttercream. And depending upon which of the 3 cakes you decide to make, you will need a variety of colors. Certainly, if you're going to make all 3 of these, then just make every color of the rainbow and you're good to go. And it's super easy and quick. Of course, we're going to need white and black as well. And then a few other adornments that I'll be using are some sprinkles. I actually have made my own little mix, and I'll tell you a little trick that I did. I love Sweet Apolita. They are a fabulous sprinkle company. I had this really cute kit left over from the winter holidays. This is called the Fa La 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 Lit kit. This little medley is so cute. It's got all sorts of different green colored sprinkles in it. It's got tiny stars, it's got big stars, and then of course it's got a few colors of the rainbow. Now this one had some larger red pearls, and I just pulled those out. There were only a handful, but I pulled those out so that I didn't have a more like Christmas type feel with this particular sprinkle. And then I added in some of their other sprinkles. These are the electric lime sprinkles. So I just poured a few in here, shook it up, got it going. And then I also picked up some gold sprinkles. Now these are the confetti sprinkles. They look like, you know, little confetti discs, and they happen to be colored gold. They come in white and a couple of other colors as well, but I saw them already in gold and figured it would save me a step if I just got the gold. But you could absolutely get the white ones and color them gold if you'd like. And then I just mixed all of those up into a little container so that I had easy access to them for our first little mini cake, which is going to be the 4-leaf clovers. All right, and then last but not least, for our leprechaun, I have just these little nubbins is what I call them. I'm not sure they actually have a real name. I'm not sure what it is, but they're just tiny little, they look like little itty bitty mini Hershey Kisses, and they come in a variety of colors. And all I did was separate out the black ones so that I could create his eyes and his mouth. So, you know, you could use mini chocolate chips. You could use other styles of candy. You don't have to use these in particular, but I had them, and I'm always kind of looking to repurpose things into different ways. So I decided to use this particular sprinkle for his eyes. Rather than just piping something, I wanted to give it a little bit more dimension and have a little bit more fun with it. So let's get started with our mini cake. So the first thing that we're going to do is just have some white icing on hand. We're going to start with our 4-leaf clover. And the beauty of this particular tin, again, as I mentioned, is really, really easy to ice. So you just want to get some icing onto the side, and then keep that icing in front of your spatula when you're icing. So you can just push side to side, get it moving, and just make sure you've got full coverage all the way. So I'm literally just gonna squash it out to the edges. And, you know, if you need to trim out any of the tops of the cake, I probably should have maybe trimmed this just a little bit more. But all I did, just so you guys know, all I did was take a knife and run across the top. You know, sometimes we get that little bit of a dome over the top of our cakes. They rise up a little bit. Sometimes they sink back down. Sometimes they don't. You know, it's going to depend a little bit on the style of cake that you are baking off. But this is just super, super easy to trim, because you can utilize the tin as your little guide, which works wonderfully. Now, if you want to make this perfectly smooth, you've got 2 choices. You can spray this with just a quick spray of water, and it will, and then run your spatula over top of it. Your other option is you can use a little piece of parchment paper just to, I would actually flip my parchment paper over and squash it, and that would make it perfectly smooth. Because we're putting decor on it, I'm not over stressed about, making this absolutely perfect. So I'm not going to worry about it. I am just going to go with what we have. One thing I will say is just run your finger around that edge though, and make sure that your icing is nice and smooth around that outer edge of the tin. And that just will help keep everything nice and tidy for you. And then with our template, so these are fairly straightforward in the sense that we're not doing overly complicated designs here. However, for anyone who just needs a little extra help with spacing, this is the best way to be able to do this. So you put your template next to the cake, you line it up, and then you can use this as a guide. So this is my middle, and then this is going to be, my third on each side, just so that I've got a nice place to be able to guide where each of these clovers are going to land. It makes that process just a little bit easier for you. And what I like about that is it saves a little time as well. I mean, if you are really good at eyeballing this, by all means, go ahead and do so. If you need a little help, either use the template or you can just measure with a ruler or whatever it is that you would like to do. I mean, there's lots of ways that you can make that happen. All right, looks like I just have my buttercream crusted up in my tip for just a second there. So I'm just using my little tool to kind of open that back up. So what I have for my 4-leaf clover is tip 104. This is a tip that it's a rose leaf tip. If that might be another name that you're familiar with, but it's wider at one end, it tapers at the other end, and it just gives a really pretty ruffle to the edge of a rose. Now with this particular 4-leaf clover, I actually wanted a little bit more depth around the outer edges, and then I wanted it a bit more narrow in the middle. So rather than using it the way that we normally would, which is to set the thick end down and let the thin ruffly edge be at the top, we're going to just flip it over, and that's going to create a thicker edge and a thinner center. So that's just to kind of give you a little, tip. If you are creating something and you want a thicker edge, just rotate your tip. That's all it takes. And then we are basically going to shape, I'm going to show you, we're going to shape a heart on one side and then the other. And then we're going to flip our cupcake over and we're going to do 2 hearts on the other side. That is how simple this particular cake is. So you're going to set your tip down, go ahead and start squeezing, just give a little jiggle to form that heart. And then as you come back to the center, stop squeezing and pull away. So that's what's going to make just that little curvature in the side of the clover leaf. Works really, really well. And then, I normally, when we're making flowers or leaves or things like this, and we're on, and we're going to place them on a cake, we could do that on a flower nail, in which case we have the ability to rotate it. So don't hesitate to rotate this little cake. That's the beauty of having a small cake. Use it to your advantage, and then, rotate it as you need to. Just little hearts. You've got 4 little hearts all in a row. Don't stress over them not touching each other. It's not a big deal. I have a tendency to start in the middle. That kind of guides my size a little bit. And then I'm going to move over to my other side. And the same process is going to happen for each of these clovers. So you just want to squeeze, do that little divot, stop squeezing and pull away. That is the process. It's broken down a little bit. It makes it really, really easy. And these are maybe just a tad towards the top so that I can put a little stem at the bottom. But make your own judgment call there. If you feel like they need to be in a slightly different position, go for it. And then as far as that little stem is concerned, I am literally just going to use the thick end in the center, squeeze and pull down, and then just stop squeezing and pull away. That's how easy that little stem is. It's just a little flick of the wrist almost. And then if you need to, you can come in and tap down or shift any of those little tails that are in the center. They give them character. No four-leaf clover is ever going to look the same. So I wouldn't worry too much about making them all look the same, just so that they're similar. And if I feel like this one maybe isn't separated enough, so I'm just gonna like pull just a little bit of that green back away so that you can see the stem. So you have the ability to kind of play with this a little bit once you get those piped on. And then the last piece is just, and this is going to make a little bit of a mess. So you could put down a little cookie sheet or a piece of parchment or something. I have a tendency just to try to work right over my bowl, but I know I'm going to make a mess, and I wanted my set to be pretty for everybody today. So I didn't want to use any sort of tray under there. We just have all these beautiful colors. I didn't want to distract from it. So I'm literally just laying those down, and then you can come in if they're not sticking real well. This is an American style buttercream. So it is technically a crusting buttercream, which means that the surface dries fairly quickly. And so if you're struggling with getting them to attach, just push down a little bit. They'll sink right into that buttercream with no issue whatsoever. It is nice and easy. All right. And I can hear all of those little candies hitting the floor. I should have put down my sheet, but it's okay. Now we have a beautiful, beautiful table for the rest of our little mini cakes as we decorate. Now, one of the other things that is in this particular set is, again, they have some of the stars in there. I'm going to grab a few more larger ones. There's one large one in here, but I would love to see a couple larger stars on this one. You could always, just come in and pop a couple of sprinkles in wherever you would like. I like the stars because they're kind of a bit more festive and maybe a little bit more, fun, just a little bit of extra fun. Just like that. And then you're all set. That's it. Like that just is a super easy, super quick. It's very simple to do. So truly anyone can make this particular cake. It's not something that will take a whole lot of skill set. So, it's something super easy and quick to do. It does take a little bit of control with your piping bag, but if you struggle with that, take your template, put it down and put a piece of parchment paper or saran wrap on it and just practice first on a sheet of paper until you're comfortable. And then you can move to piping these right onto your cake. There's lots of ways to be able to improve your piping skills. And that's one of them, just simply practicing. I think that's one of the best things that anybody can do for themselves when they're trying to get started in a craft. If you're new to cake decorating, then you definitely want to give yourself a little bit of practice. If you've been around for a while and you just want to have a little fun with cake, these are just another great way just to have a little fun. But they do come together really quickly, really easily, and again, just adorable. All right, so let's move on to our rainbow pot of gold. This one is going to use two different colors on the base. So we're going to use blue for basically the top. If we broke this into thirds, it would be like 2/3 blue and 1/3 black. So I am just going to go ahead and put blue down where I think I need it. I'm going to put a little bit more on there, just so it's got a really nice coating. And again, you want to try to make this flat, but these are just adorable little mini cakes. Don't stress too much over making them perfect. And then just run that finger right along the edge, get any of that excess buttercream off, and set it aside. All right, and then for our black, you can do this two different ways. You can come in and stripe this with your piping bag, or you can just use your spatula like we did for the blue. So all I'm doing is just getting a little bit on there. I'm going to put my tip back on. I'll talk to you about this one in a minute. And just using a clean spatula, you're going to do the same process, nice and easy. Just like that. And, your goal is to try to make that, again, flat if you'd like. You don't have to. You can absolutely have some texture to it. It's a pot of gold, so there's going to be more decor on top of it, and you don't have to worry about it being perfect. I do, again, just encourage you to scrape off that side, because that's the part that you'll be handling. Makes it a little bit easier. Okay, so the next tip that I have this is actually a number 47. And what it looks like is it's flat. So it's got a flat edge on one side, and then it's got a beveled edge on the other side, which makes just like little grooves and lines within your buttercream. I am going to use the flat side up, and I'm actually going to create like a little rounded rim on the back side, just as a guide more than anything. All of my buttercream has crusted right into my tips. No worries. Just clean it out and it's good to go again. Then I'm just going to curve it a little bit so that I have sort of the concept behind it. And then I'm going to grab my gold buttercream. And I just have this in a larger tip. This isn't a Teco, it's an 809, but somewhere around the size of like a dime. And if you don't have a tip that is this large, don't stress over it. Any round tip will do. Your only goal is just to get a little bit of curvature to your pot of gold. So you just want a little bit of oomph, have a little bit of depth to it, so as if that pot of gold is spilling over and coming right onto the cake. And then you're going to grab your gold sprinkles. Again, these are the confetti sprinkles. Now, the fun part about this is that because we're using a crusting buttercream, our buttercream is it's not tacky. It's not going to stick. So even though we just put the black and the blue on, our little gold confetti sprinkles are going to stick mostly just to this yellow that we just put on. But then grab a little paintbrush or a toothpick, and you can just push them right into place. They will not stick to the black or the blue. And just keep working them until they all get there. I haven't found a simpler way to get these on here without just completely making a mess. So if you have suggestions, go ahead and throw those in the comment section, because I'm all ears. I feel like we are all always learning and, trying to pick up new tricks of the trade. So if you've got a better way, don't hesitate to share. We want to hear it. We want to hear all about it. And, this part of the process is going to take just a little bit longer. It's not a whole lot of time, but you do want to try to get those little discs on there. Oh boy. Sometimes you just got to pick them up and put them on one by one. If you have, if your finger is just a tiny bit wet, not so much so that you end up, dissolving the sugar. But if you have a little bit of moisture to your finger, they'll actually just stick when you pick them up, just like that. And then you can just place them really easily. So, find a little trick that works best for you. We just want to get a couple on there. All right. And that's why we're using gold underneath as well, just to ensure that, if we have a couple spots where we don't actually have those little discs, it's not going to look odd. So that's why I'm using gold here and not using like a white buttercream for instance. Jocelyn, thank you so much. She is saying that these cakes are so cute. Thanks for the idea. Definitely going to be giving it a try. Yes, please do. These are seriously so fun and they're just adorable. I was so excited to be able to kind of come up with slightly more creative little design here for you. Just something a little different than a regular traditional cupcake. All right, so then I'm going to take that same straight edge tip and just make sure that it's nice and cleaned off. And then all I'm going to do is create this little barrier. And this is like the lip of the pot. So, and you can go over this a couple of times if you need to. You can make it as thick or as thin as you would like. And I'm not sure how well you can see this, but I have a little that came off on the edge. And honestly, comes off so easy. Just use your little, gosh, I can't come up with the word, the tin as your guide and just pull straight down and you're good to go. So it makes it super, super easy to have those nice straight edges, as I mentioned before. And then our next step is going to be to create the rainbow. And you could do this in a lot of ways. Because I wanted to design something that was just in buttercream, because these are so small, we could absolutely use fondant here. We could use candy. There's a lot of different ways that you could do this. I just wanted to do something where we had all buttercream. We were just basically using one medium with a couple of extra sprinkles, just so that you could create this cake really super easy. The template, again, is a guide for you. Same process. You can just set it next to it and kind of get a feel for where you might be putting things. And you can do any color of the rainbow that you would like. These are, I have a combination of sizes of tips because I don't know how many size 12 round tips you have in your little arsenal of cake supplies, but I only had like 3. I thought I had way more, but I have a combination of 10 and 12, and even I ended up using even a number 8, which is even smaller. So, whatever size round tip you have, that works. And all you're going to do is set that tip down, give it a squeeze. Let me just get it going. So you're going to give it a squeeze, pull up, and then start to angle it off the edge just a little bit. And again, don't worry about going over the edge. The spatula is going to come into play here. We'll be able to just clear that right off. Sorry, my puppers is excited. Not sure what's going on with him today. All right, on to blue. Now this is a bigger tip. This is a number 12. So I'm not going to squeeze quite as firmly. And I am just going to keep moving through each of these colors. All right, green is next. So we used green for the first one. And again, as always, I encourage you to use couplers when you're doing a project like this, just so you can swap back and forth between your tips. Makes it easier for you. You don't have to stress over multiple bags. Just make one bag of each color with a coupler and you're good to go. All right, we've got green coming up. right. And then, of course, we've got our yellow, our orange, and our red. And I am going to swap out one of my tips just because, again, I could not believe I didn't have all of the round tips that I thought I had. Actually, I know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to use the orange just because if we happen to miss a little bit of the buttercream that is actually in that tip, the yellow and the orange will blend really well together, and it won't make too much of a difference. I think that's the only downside here to this particular cake is just that it does have so many colors that it requires, a lot of tips. And tips aren't super expensive. You can usually get 2 for $1, depending upon where you're at and which type of tip you're looking for. Some of them are a little bit more expensive. All you got to do, though, is just give it a squeeze, get some of that icing out of there, and you're good to go. Now, if I were doing a lot of these cakes, making more than just one like I am today, it would be very easy to simply put, all of them in a row and do all your pink, then all your purple, then all your blue. And that way you're not switching back and forth between each of your tips every time. It obviously just makes the process a little bit easier. It makes it a little faster for you, but whatever works. I think that's the beauty, of cake at least, is there's no right or wrong answer. You can do whatever works for you. All right, so now that I've got my icing on here, you can see I came over the edge, and I did that intentionally because I want this to smooth out really nicely. And I'm going to flip this just because it's easier for me to hold this with my right hand. But all I'm going to do is start on the top and run my spatula down. And now you can see it's got this beautiful edge. It blends those colors together. It just makes for a really nice finish. And same thing over here. Just start at the top and just blend it down. You just want to make sure you're not putting any icing back on. So make sure you clean it each time. And that is our adorable little rainbow pot of gold. You could have a lot of fun with this as far as adding in additional sprinkles. That's another option that you would have if you didn't want to pipe each of these rainbows. You could lay out, pink sprinkles and purple sprinkles. You would just have to have, obviously, a rainbow assortment of sprinkles. You could do this with gel color, just by mixing it with a corn syrup, and you could get more of a translucent rainbow, which would be really fun. So a lot of different ways that you can play with this particular design and truly have a lot of fun with it. All right, let me get this one out of our way. And we will move on to our last, and to me, the most adorable little mini cake that we'll be making today. Our little leprechaun. He is just the cutest. You could certainly, play with him and create some different styles of, what you put up on his hat. You could change the color of his hat. You truly have a little bit more fun with him as well. But this is, to get started, just a super cute cake. He is my favorite. So what I've got is both, I've got 3 colors of buttercream to get started with the leprechaun. And the main thing is that you want to make sure you separate this basically into thirds. And again, you can use your template right next to it as a guide if you need to. But what I'm going to do is actually start with the skin tone color and put it just right in the center. And now I am totally fine with overlapping a little. Like, I'm not worried about, this color going into where his beard is, because his beard is going to cover that up anyway. And same thing towards the top. I'm not going to stress over, his hat covering that. So, give yourself a little bit of leeway on both sides. The goal, again, is just to make sure you have some good coverage there so that he has a nice solid face. So put a little more on there if you need to. All right, one more swipe here and I think we're good to go. All right, maybe two. All right, and then we're gonna move to the orange, which of course is his beard. And again, this is kind of a fun color because I took some of my orange color and some of my yellow color and I mixed it, but I didn't mix it all the way. And if you can see, like in his beard, he sort of has streaks of yellow and streaks of orange, and that just gives him a little bit more depth. So when you're trying to create something like hair in a beard, this gives you a little bit more dimension that, just that texture is going to create the dimension, but really the color within it kind of creates like little shadows, and it's a really cool way to add a little bit more texture and depth. All right, so with our orange, same process, just pull down. This one, again, color is not so important as long as you're sticking with the orange, because you want to make sure that he's got a nice beard. And I'm not even worried about that edge because that's where we're going to do some piping. And then, of course, our last color is going to be green towards the top. For his hat, you could certainly do a fully black hat and then, adorn it with either green or gold, or gosh, options are endless. All right, so once you have your base layer of icing on, then you get to have a little bit more fun and start piping. All right, so this almost looks like the Irish flag. Not quite, because we've got that skin tone in there, but that's another idea that would work really well here. Again, just clearing that off so my edges are nice. All right, Ella says, these little cakes are so adorable and so easy to make. You are a fantastic decorator, my friend. Oh, I adore you, Miss Ella. I know exactly who that is. Thanks, love. We need to get together soon. All right, so for our little guy here, I'm going to start with his mustache and his beard and get his hair in there. And then we'll come back and do some of those other details. So I'm just going to swap out my tip. This is going to be a number 21. This is a star tip. And it definitely could be swapped out for a smaller star tip if you don't have a 12. I don't have a 21. 21's pretty common. They come in most sets, so you should have it. And when you get ready to pipe the beard, you want to start in the middle and work to the outside, and then come back and work to the outside again. And that just helps like layer it a little bit. So I'm going to give just a little curvature to his beard as I am piping, just to get, again, a little texture. Try to clean off your tip if there's a lot of excess buttercream on there as you're piping, only because otherwise you'll just put all of that right back on your cake. All right. So fun. One more just to kind of cover that. Now, if you want to, you could come in and create, some additional depth. For instance, I feel like he needs just a little more something here. Just a little extra oomph. And then, as always, I'm going to come in with the edge of my spatula and just clean up. Now you could absolutely leave that as well if you wanted. There's no, no reason you had to take it off, unless of course you were going to try to put the lid on. The little lids that come with these guys are they run around the outside edge, so you would need to clean that off if you were going to put a lid on it. But you could absolutely get away with just that icing hanging over the edge. All right, so I'm going to create his little mouth, which is just one of those dots. And then I am going to drop his eyes in while I have these out as well. Just like that. And before I put his mustache on, I'm going to pipe his nose. So what I have is, again, this is just a number 8, and I am just going to start straight up and down, start squeezing and build it up. And I'm going to make a little bit of an oval out of it. So all I did was go back and forth a little bit. And again, because this is a crusting buttercream, you can just tap it with your finger and you're good to go. And now I can come in and put that final touch of just that cute little mustache. And it's just making a little swirl. There is nothing fancy about that process. You squeeze, you pull away and stop squeezing at the same time. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in his little eyebrows. Just teeny tiny little eyebrows. Little flecks there. And then of course, I'm going to add in his hairline. Cute little leprechaun coming together already. And then as far as finishing the hat goes, I am just going to use my round tip and build up just a little bit so that it's got some depth as if it's coming up and over his hairline. Again, just cleaning off my edges so that it's nice and straight. And then we're going to move to our black. If I could, there's my black. And this is the same flat tip that we were using before. And all I'm going to do is make that belt. So I'm just going to follow the line that I just did. Nice and straight, nothing crazy. Pull down on both sides to clear that off. And then you have a choice here. You could certainly use your yellow and pipe in some gold for like the little buckle that's up there. I decided just to use my little sprinkles because I thought they were a little more fun and just added a slightly different texture to what we were working with already. So basically, just like that, I'm just gonna use your tools to your advantage. So I am using 5 of them just to create sort of the top edge of the buckle. If you felt the need, you could put another row of 3, right underneath there. Your choice, whatever works. And then let's pipe in some ears. So same little tip. And I'm just going to squeeze and stop squeezing. This is basically just making a circle on both sides, just like that. And then I am going to use, this is my Dresden tool. It has that beautiful little curvature on the side. I'm just going to push down in the middle of that. And what that does is creates just that little bit of like an indentation, a little dimple there to make it look as if they're curved. That one needs just a little more, just like that. All right, what are we missing? Did we miss anything on him? Oh, the clover. There we go. All right, so last thing, again, is the same clover that we used for our first cake that we did together. And it is same process. You just want to make sure that you give yourself the space that you need. So I'm actually going to rotate this and do the bottom 2 first, just so that I have an idea of how big I can actually make these. There isn't a whole lot of room on this one. I spaced it a little differently than I did on the first one, and that's okay. Again, these don't have to be exactly the same. Just do whatever works. All right. And then I'm just going to tap it down the centers so that that all comes together really smoothly. When you're working with something that, this is a little bit smaller, so it's not, it's not as large as the other ones. It sometimes can be a little bit more challenging to get each of those little grooves in there. Use your paintbrush or a toothpick, any of those things just to kind of work and get them exactly where you want them to be. So those are our 3 little St. Patty's Day cakes. I hope that you've really enjoyed watching these come together. I had a blast creating them. And of course, I'm so excited to have all of you be joining us. If you have questions along the way, feel free to do that. Remember to download the templates. That's what's super helpful about this particular project. And if you are looking for something more sugary fun that has to do with making St. Patty's Day treats, I would encourage you to join me for our little pot of gold rainbow cakes. This is a tutorial that is coming up in just a little bit. It's going to be at, let's see, I am so bad with doing my math. 11:30 Central Time. Oh my goodness. 11:30 Central Time. If you are a gold member, you can join us, and we'll be creating not only these adorable little mini cakes in our little pots, but I'm going to be sharing my favorite recipe for making a caramel. And you have the option of creating this caramel with a whiskey or even an Irish cream like Bailey's to add just a little bit more flavor and truly make it something that is a bit more seasonal and characteristic of St. Patty's Day. So thank you again for joining me. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to let us know in the comment section. We're happy to take a peek at those later on as well. And thank you again for joining Creative Cake Design. We'll see you next time.